You know what no one tells you about personal development is that it can be lonely. Not because you don't love people anymore, it's because you're not the same person that they once knew. And sometimes the scariest part of growth isn't what you're running towards, it's what you have to leave behind, especially when that behind includes the people that you love. I almost feel like for today's episode that I need to put a trigger warning ahead of it, because I'm going to talk about something today that is true and happens when we develop ourselves. But it's something that's so excruciatingly impossible feeling that we just ignore it and we don't want to talk about it. It just becomes that elephant in the room that builds and builds and builds until it becomes something so overwhelmingly difficult to deal with that we just bury our head in the sand or blow up our lives or feel stuck or want to go back to the old version of ourselves. It's that difficult. Today I want to talk about something real, something raw, and that is, what do you do when you start to outgrow the people you thought you'd never lose? Your day ones, your best friends since 2 years old, 3 years old, 10 years old, the ones you went to school with, the ones that you went to uni with, the ones that you grew up with, the ones that you broke your leg with and got drunk with for the first time or discovered the opposite sex or whatever it is that you went through. They're your day ones and you thought you'd never be without them, and now it feels like you have to choose that. See, felt like I should put a trigger warning ahead of this, but I promised on this show that I would talk about real self-development, the real things that come up. And yes, it's great to develop ourselves, and there are plenty of ways of doing that. There are plenty of things that we can do, exciting stuff, challenge our limiting beliefs, figure out our values, set goals. All of these things are really important, but along that way, things happen that are really hard to deal with. And if I don't prepare for that, I don't think I'm being real. I'm telling the truth. And as you know by now, that's my thing. I like to tell the truth, or at least as I see it. See, personal development feels great. You get clarity, you get confidence, you build boundaries, and ultimately it's possible that you can in some way heal. I don't love the term heal. I feel like it implies something that isn't quite accurate. But as a way of understanding what I'm talking about, it's possible for you to move past traumas. In fact, what I would say you do is the same thing you probably do with grief. You never really get over the loss of somebody. You just kind of learn to live with it. And that's a little bit like a scar. You get cut or you have an injury, and when it heals, it doesn't completely go away and disappear. There's a mark left to acknowledge that it happened, like a little reminder. But I wouldn't be being honest if I didn't acknowledge the hidden costs that come with developing yourself. As you start rising, you notice something painful. Not everybody wants to rise with you. And you see, that's okay. Just because you, me, whoever has decided to develop themselves, to change, it doesn't mean that the other people have to too. They're allowed to not change, just like you're allowed to change. And your preference would be that they grew with you, but that's not what happens in some cases. Sometimes you inspire others to change along with you. Maybe you want to lose weight and a friend starts to see it working for you and they want it too. Maybe you start to learn another language and somebody thinks, wow, that's cool, I'd like to learn it with you. Maybe you go to the gym and they see you changing and they want to go with it. Maybe you're reading books and you're starting to understand things. You're calmer. The anger you used to have isn't always there. You understand people. You're dealing with people. You're communicating better. Whatever it is that's going on. Other people might see it and they think, yeah, I want a bit of that. That's a bit of me. Let's go. And they're inspired by you. Or maybe there's a friend who only calls you when they need something and you just started noticing that. Now you're developing yourself. Starts to become a problem for you. The partner who doesn't want to or cannot communicate. The family member who still sees you as the version of you that was in the past, even though you've worked so hard to grow into the person that you're proud to be today, or at least you're working on it. And suddenly you feel torn. It's painful. You're loyal to your future, but emotionally attached to your past. And you see, that's where the conflict lies. Somewhere between those two things, your loyalty to your future and the person you want to become, your commitment, your dedication, your passion, your curiosity, all of those things that are aspiring you to move forward. And then there's that real emotional attachment to the past, all of the people, places and things that dominated your past, the experiences you had, all of those things is that emotion that comes up you don't necessarily have any autonomy over. And somewhere between there is this conflict. And what's really easy to do with that conflict is to misdiagnose it as something being wrong, that you're doing something wrong and that you should stop. And there's this really easy, alluring route back to the past where you know that if you just slide back into that old version of you that All of your old friends, all of your familiar friends, all of the people you love, well, they'll welcome you back and it's all forgotten. Just don't do it again, right? So hopefully by now some of you are resonating with what I'm saying and you're like, okay, I'm in, let's talk about it. So let's do that. Why does this hurt so bloody much? Well, you're not just letting go of people. Okay, it's really easy to look back and go, okay, well, that person's doing this, that person's doing that. I'm just going to let them go. That's what I'll do. But you see, you're not just letting go of people. You're letting go of old identities, of versions of yourself that survived with those people. Sometimes we stay in relationships not because they serve us, but because they have helped us survive. And that creates guilt. Guilt that says they were there for you once. Do not abandon them. But growth isn't about abandonment. It's about alignment. Some people will love you until you start loving yourself. Then they'll say you've changed, and they're right, you have. That was the point. But change doesn't make you wrong. See, I have this thing I call the developing stairway. And it's something that I've observed. And it's like, if we think of the stairway going up and you're wanting to climb the stairway to develop yourself. Now, the first thing that's really important to understand is the higher up the stairway you get doesn't make you better than anybody else. It just offers you a different perspective. So now we're all on the ground floor, right? We're all on the bottom step, the ground floor, and we can all see the same thing. We can all agree, oh, there's a hedge, there's some grass, there's some sand, there's some water, there's a tree. We can all agree on what we see. We've all created this understanding together. And then you step up onto the next step of development. And you can still see all the same things they can see. And you can't really see a lot more. You can see a bit more, but you can't see so much that you can't still communicate and understand and talk to the person on the ground floor. You see a tree, they see a tree. You see the top of the tree. They imagine the top of the tree is somewhat like the rest of the tree, so you still got something in common. As you climb that stairway, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and it's a never-ending stairway self-development. You can go as far as you want or stay where you are, whatever. You can do what you like in self-development. It's up to you where you want to be. But the higher up that stairway you get, you start to see things so far into the distance that there's no way, there's no language that allows you to communicate to that person below. They can't see the waterfalls. They can't see the mountains. They can't see the sun as it comes up over this beautiful horizon. They can't see any of that. They've never seen any of that. And perhaps they never will. And perhaps they don't want to. And it doesn't matter what language you use, what words you use to describe it. They will not understand. And actually, quite a lot of what you say scares them a little bit. It starts to highlight how much further away you are than they thought. And there's this thing where they want you to come back down again, and you want them to climb the stairs. Neither of you are wrong, by the way. Both of you are entitled to think, feel, do what you want. But there's the conflict. You want them to come up and see all the incredible things that you see, experience all of the ways that you experience life now that you're developing yourself. And they want you to come back down to them and carry on doing the things that you've always enjoyed and the things that you find fun, the times that you've laughed together. And they've got all these examples and experiences that they share with you, which just makes you feel more guilty. And this conflict starts to emerge, this resentment starts to emerge, and it becomes really, really difficult to manage. And nobody's wrong, and that's the hard bit. So how do you handle this without burning bridges or betraying yourself? Well, the first thing is accept that not everyone is meant to stay. I hear that and I feel that. And as you know by now, I'm sober, and part of my sobriety was understanding that some of the relationships I had wouldn't survive sobriety. And actually, if you had told me that some of those relationships wouldn't have survived my sobriety, I probably in the beginning wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't go back now because those relationships are different. Some are non-existent now. I don't see those people, and others have just changed and developed. And interestingly enough, some of the people who I thought, okay, well, our relationship is solely based on alcohol, so that's probably going to fade away. And I started to prepare myself for it because I was destroying my life. And actually they came through and they surprised me, and they became one of the most supportive and incredible friends that I'll ever have. And I'm so grateful for them. You really start to see who the people that mean the most to you are when these things happen. Because the other part about that developing stairway is that when you are standing on those steps that are higher than the ground floor, step 7, step 8, whatever you want to call it, you spend all your time calling down to the person on the ground floor who doesn't want to come up to where you are. And while you're doing that, you're ignoring all the people on the step that you're on. You could turn around and say, hey, I'm Johnny, how are you? And you'll find that you have a lot in common with those people, but we'll get to that. So you have to accept that not everyone is meant to stay while you progress and develop yourself. Not everyone is built for every chapter of your life. Some people were meant for your trauma, not your healing, and that's okay. Every friendship we have, every relationship we have has a beginning and an end. Sometimes you meet people and they're for that course over the weekend, or that stag do, or that holiday, or that time while you're at school, or that job that you had. And it has a beginning and an end. And in the moments, you feel like you can be friends forever, but actually, you're just having a shared experience. And that friendship comes to a natural end. No one's done anything wrong. No one hates each other. Perhaps you keep in contact over social media, send each other happy birthday messages, Merry Christmas, whatever. But past that, it's done. And sometimes the strain and the stress comes from trying to keep something alive that just wants to naturally fizzle out. The next thing is to speak with compassion, but remain clear. Keep that clarity. You can outgrow someone without hating them. This is something that happens. We get frustrated, and we're not frustrated at each other. We're frustrated with the situation because we don't want things to change, but we do at the same time. You're committed to this future version of yourself. Using myself as an example, I had to give up drinking alcohol because it wasn't the person I wanted to be. It didn't allow me to show up as the husband I wanted to be. It didn't allow me to show up as the dad I wanted to be. And it certainly didn't allow me to become the person I am today, which hopefully is helping lots of others. So I had to change. And there were some people that wanted me to stay the same. And that's not them being wrong. And it's not me being right or me being wrong or them being right and me being wrong. None of that. It's just an unfortunate situation because, you see, we try to make someone the villain. It's a lot easier to hate somebody, right? It happens a lot in relationships. It's much easier to break up with someone when you dislike them. If they cheat on you or they do something unkind in some way, it's much easier to separate yourself from them. But you don't have to. Sometimes you can just let them know that. It's a simple thing. I'm focusing on something different right now. It's a powerful and kind way to let them down or to let them know. Another thing you could do is to let your silence speak. Not every separation needs a conversation. Sometimes distance does the work, and silence can be clarity. You don't have to have those awkward conversations. In fact, you both might find that there's a knowing between you that doesn't need to be acknowledged, and that might be a bit easier for you both. Maybe just as you are finding it difficult to be around that person that doesn't want to change with you, maybe they're finding it difficult to be around you while you change. It's not always about us. Next, don't shrink to fit. Never compromise your growth to make others feel comfortable. You're not responsible for their reaction to your evolution. And that's hard to understand. It's hard when we get into these moments where our boundaries get challenged, where we have to look at someone we love and care about and see that we know that we can change the way they feel by just backpedaling, just going back to the person we was. But just because we can change and make their pain go away, it doesn't mean that we're responsible for doing it. They could change. Equally, they're allowed to not change. It's a very, very difficult situation. I suppose what I'm saying is don't feel like you need to step in and take responsibility for that. It is what it is. It's a difficult, impossible feeling situation. And then lastly, just as I said before, find your people. As you grow, you'll attract people that reflect your future, not your past. Trust that. Build new circles, new energy, new standards. Again, it's not about those people not being good enough. It's just they're not the right people. And that goes both ways, just as I said. So when you're on that step, wherever that is, whatever that is, turn around and make friends. Be brave. If you're sober, go to sober parties and sober events and make conversation. I promise you, everyone in that room is just as awkward feeling as you are, and they'll welcome somebody who can start a conversation and can talk about how hard it is and can resonate. If you're developing yourself in any area, then go to things that are related to that. If it's work stuff that you're trying to improve in, go to work functions and seminars. If it's personal development, go to festivals, go to personal development events, join communities online, take courses, follow people on social media. And lastly, reflect and challenge yourself. Growth is a door that only opens from the inside, and not everyone is ready to walk through it with you, and that's okay. So here's the challenge I'll leave you with today. Who in your life are you keeping around out of habit, not alignment? What version of yourself are you protecting just to make someone else feel comfortable? It's okay to love someone and still let them go. I know. That's hard to hear. Does it make you selfish for choosing peace? You're not cold for choosing space. You're just evolving, and evolution doesn't wait for permission. If this episode hit you in the gut, then it was supposed to, and I'm sorry, because this journey, this personal development path is not just about becoming better, it's about becoming honest. The only way you're ever going to be happy in life, fulfilled in life, and that's not a constant state, that fluctuates. But the only way you're going to get to where you want to go is if you start being honest about what you want and what you don't want. And that means, unfortunately, that some of those people that you love right now, you can still love them, but maybe they can't be in your life in the same way that they was before. And that's a difficult one. And there's nothing there really to analyze. It kind of is what it is, which I hate that statement, but sometimes it is the statement that fits. So if you're navigating this exact situation, it's about being honest, and honesty always comes with a price. Even over time, I've never found it to not be worth it. You have to align with what's true, because what's true is stable, what's true is reliable, what's true is true. That's why it's the truth. So if this did resonate with you, you're not alone. I can reassure you that some of the things that you're feeling are normal, expected, standard, I don't know what you'd call it. But keep growing, keep evolving, and remember, loyalty to your future matters more than your attachment to your past. So until next time, live your morals, chase your ambitions, know what drives you, and create an environment that supports who you want to be, not who you don't want to be. Thank you for listening to the Johnny Lawrence podcast, and I'll see you again next week for another episode.